that we are about a month out from the VHF contest. The June VHF contest is the weekend of June 12th and 13th. Something we push for simplex training. And here in San Diego, we can usually talk up the coast and hit Santa Barbara fairly easily. Even if you're just using an HT and talking your neighborhood, it is wonderful practice. Some people do logging for points, some people do not. And field day is end of June, June 26th weekend. And so that's mostly an HF event. Everybody likes to get out in the field, set up modified rules. As you know, they're still giving points for 1D to 1D contacts. However, there's also the 150 watt power limit if you're going to be doing 1D points. We're all very sad to hear that not only have so many endurance runs been canceled, like the PCD 50 and the San Diego 100, but the Miramar Air Show was canceled also. There's a small endurance run happening up in the Penasquitos area that a few hams are going to be helping out with, but it's not a nighttime event primarily, so there's not going to be many hours of nighttime ops to get that task book requirement signed off. So we'll get there eventually. And let me switch over to Fred right now. Fred wanted to talk about the Red Cross drill. So Fred, when is the Red Cross WinLink drill?
Okay, good. Excuse me. Good morning, Rob. The Red Cross WinLink drill is today. Excuse me. And it actually consists of two parts. So there's sort of a part for the Red Cross folks to complete. And then there's a second part, which is for any ham, any MCON group to participate in. So I sent out I just sent it out on Groups.io again. And don't let the size of the file scare you, but it's a 13-page document. But really, for our purposes, if you go to the 6th page, that is what involves the non-Red Cross groups from participating. And actually, this is the better part of the drill, in my opinion. And what it involves is members or operators sending out 2 WinLink messages, and it's all outlined in the instruction pretty clearly. You're going to send out a WinLink check-in message. The second one is a Red Cross 6409 message, which is a disaster requisition form that's widely used in the Red Cross, the 6409. And both of those forms are in your template. Man, I can't talk this morning. Template library in WinLink. So make sure your WinLink is up to date. For our purposes, our participation is anytime between noon and 4 today, local time, to send out your traffic. One of the options is if you want to go out and remotely set up a station and send your traffic, you're more than encouraged to do so. In the instruction, it also talks about if you would like to send a picture of your station to them, you can, but they are emphasizing, please do not send the picture to them on WinLink. Send it via a separate email client, and I'm going to supply the address to it because it's not in the instructions. And for our purposes here, the traffic is going to be sent to ARC Pacific, all one word. That's the divisional clearinghouse for our region here. So it's really the best part of the drill, in my opinion. The Red Cross is going to send a WinLink message to their regional disaster officer, and I'm not going to go into that. But for the purposes of sending the 6409, in the instruction on page 7, they have taken a 6409 and handwritten the message. And you are to transcribe that handwritten message into your WinLink form. So you don't have to make anything up. It's right there on page 7. And whatever's on page 7 is what you put in your message, and go ahead and send it. There's also some instructions for the WinLink check-in. I think they want to know like where your location. and some brief comments on that. And so, like I said, anytime between noon and 4 today. And this is something that, you might be handed a 6409 or any other kind of form, and they'll say, send this out over WinLink, and, we got to transcribe it and do it. So that's it in a nutshell. Thanks, Rob.
Fred, thanks for that announcement. Any questions or comments for Fred about the Red Cross drill today? Okay, looking at the list of participants here, I see that most people understood everything that Fred was talking about for WinLink. If you are not a WinLink person, if WinLink is a mystery to you and you would like to learn more about it, please contact me or contact Manir, and we will get you trained up to do WinLink. The easiest way to learn WinLink is to first do it on internet mode only, which is called Telnet, and then to, in the future, sometime expand out into either VHF, UHF, or HF modes. Okay, so jumping into the presentation now. Okay, so this is a recap of the last full hospital drill that we did. For most of us here today is going to be reminiscing about the good old days when we did hospital drills before the pandemic, and looking forward to drills in the future. For new members of ARES that are on the call that have never done a hospital drill before, this will give you an idea of the scope of what ARES does during hospital drills. In my opinion, it was probably the smoothest running hospital drill we ever did. And that was in November, just as news was starting to come out of China about this strange epidemic thing happening. So, and then of course, the next drill after that would have been the April drill, April 2020 drill, which was canceled. So you can see the screen that says 70 volunteers now.
Yes.
Okay, very good. All right, so just to recap, we had 70 ARES volunteers were able to take time away from their day jobs, take half a day off, retired people that changed their vacation plans in order to be in town to support the exercise. So thank you very much for doing that. We were able to cover 30 locations around the county, mostly hospitals, a number of clinics, and a few outlying facilities related to medical. During the drill, it's easy to count WinLink messages in the WinLink system. So we had over 500 WinLink messages that moved through the system. Over 300 of those were check-ins and formal ICS Form 213s with information going either up and down from the hospital up to the MOC, or lateral information passing from hospital to hospital or within the same hospital system, or from a hospital to that hospital's corporate headquarters, like at Sharp headquarters in Kearny Mesa. In addition to all the WinLink messages, there were hundreds of voice messages that were passed, informational, tactical things, and also 213s were passed by voice. Now, the San Diego exercise was 2 weeks earlier than other California counties, and this was driven by the San Diego County Office of Emergency Services, OES, was going to have a law enforcement drill. And so the powers that be in the county decided to move the hospital drill over to the same date as the law enforcement component. Anybody remember what the law enforcement component of that November drill was?
Yes, it was a active shooter at Carlsbad, the Legoland.
Exactly right. And was it only Carlsbad, Legoland, where they had the active shooter?
Oh, then it spread to somewhere else.
Yeah, that's right. It spread to someplace else. Okay, so for that reason, we were actually able to observe the Los Angeles exercise, which happened a couple of weeks later. So thanks to the team leaders for all the advanced planning and everything. The phone calls to contact the hospitals, the emails that went back and forth between the emergency managers at hospitals and your team members. After the event, as always, we had well-written after-action reports. We had new people who jumped in, were in the training mode under Elmer's. We had extra net controls on the air, which helped out a lot. We found that in addition to having one principal net control, traffic cop for all the voice traffic and coordination moving around the county, each of our principal backup alternate repeaters also needed to have a net control sitting on it, minding that particular repeater. So if somebody in a far out corner of the county, like Fallbrook or Oceanside, that not necessarily could talk on the principal repeater, there'd be somebody there to relay the information without any delay. We also had two HF net controls. We're always trying to expand the exercise into HF for people that have that capability in order to extend our reach to Imperial County and Riverside County and up the coast. And we also always thank the WinLink admin, Mike Burton, for his wonderful support of our exercises, helping people with their lost password resets and other problems that come up. And to the many repeater owners, we're very appreciative of everything they do in order to make our exercise happen. The repeater owners schedule repeater maintenance so that it supports or does not conflict with our exercises. So we really appreciate the many repeater owners that supported our exercise. And moving. Okay, overall good. We did not experience problems that we had in previous exercises. As I mentioned, the assistant net controls and the outlying repeaters. We used and it set aside 20 repeaters for this exercise. We had 17 listed on the comm plan, and also the Tijuana Club CREBC had repeaters in use. So overall, about 20 repeaters. And another good thing that we've been pushing for a while is to get those situational awareness reports coming from the MOC. Some of us, when we do exercises, we're sitting in the middle of a parking lot somewhere, wondering what's happening in the rest of the county. Some clinics may or may not be connected to web EOC and know exactly what's happening with the entire exercise. So it's really good when somebody at the MOC can summarize, write down what you see from your point of view that's happening countywide, and then push that information out to everybody else. That really helps with teamwork and inclusion. The other good things that happened is we had the WinLink desktop drill, the internet-only practice with the software WinLink exercise happened a month prior, and that got everybody up to speed in the latest features of WinLink. And we also started to throttle back a little bit on all the traffic going to the MOC, because we were finding that the MOC was getting overwhelmed with so many messages coming in. One a minute or more. It was impossible for them to read, digest, print, and handle that much traffic. And a lot of it was not necessary. There were administrative type things going to the MOC. So we started to throttle back, and we had other things being handled by, you might call it a WinLink net control, which is the admin or the SDG-admin address was receiving a lot of traffic. Some of the challenges that we had during the exercise, late receipt of the master scenario events list, they call it the MESL. That didn't come out from the county until just prior to the event, like a couple of days before, maybe because they had the medical community had to coordinate it with the law enforcement community. I don't know, but getting the MESL in late did not help us know some of the details of the exercise for pre-planning. The official list of participating hospitals asking for ARES, as you know, is always a challenge. There's a form that every medical facility in the county, and there's several hundred of them, they fill out a form. Are you going to participate in the exercise of this date? Yes or no? And who's your contact person? And somewhere down in the list, there is a checkbox. Do you want ARES? And a lot of people don't know what ARES is, and so they don't check it. Or anyway, so the processing of those forms by the county and pushing that information out to those of us waiting to receive it was delayed. So we don't know if this hospital or that hospital are officially participating or not. So one of the workarounds is thank you to the team leads who contacted each of your hospitals individually and then found out if they're participating or not, so we could assign people to those locations. Unfortunately, we left some hospitals uncovered. There just aren't enough volunteers in order to send pairs of people as a minimum out to the hospitals. And a lot of smaller clinics are starting now to ask for coverage. There are some group homes, for example, that have a central office, a corporate, and we'll send a team there, but they would also, if possible, like to have some of their satellite locations covered. And we just do not have enough ARES members to cover 10 satellite locations for this group home and for that group home. So what we're finding is some of those people are talking to each other on GMRS or FRS or using their shuttle bus radios in order to talk to their corporate, and then we can support their corporate and get the information back. So that's why we left some facilities uncovered. As you know, there's a high turnover of emergency managers at hospitals, and it's difficult to contact emergency managers sometimes. They don't return your phone calls, they don't respond to your emails. They only last in the job for a year or two. By the time they find out what ARES is, and it's wonderful, they move on. There's a lot of step ladder type things going on, people working up their career in the emergency management community. And so because of the high turnover, it's always a challenge. Unfortunately, a few ARES people did have to operate solo, and we regret that, but sometimes there's a last minute cancellation of somebody, a volunteer. So we end up with somebody operating solo at the location. I've done it many times myself in past years, and yeah, you're running around really fast and doing the best you can under the situations. So some other challenges, we practiced ICS 213 voice sending during the exercise. In some cases it went well, sometimes not. So that's why you'll notice that once or twice a year, we try to do a little voice 213 rehearsal just to remember how to send these 213s by voice. We become very reliant on wonderful WinLink, but from time to time, we have to send formal traffic by voice also. As always, those ICS Form 213 to 14s, 14 alphas and 309s that everybody says we should be filling out. You know, in the heat of battle of an exercise, all of those forms not being filled out like maybe they ought to be, because you're trying to talk to your point of contact at the hospital, you're trying to, you know, talk on the radio, net control wants to know how come you're not responding to the roll call, and you're trying to fill out these forms as much as you can, as well as talk to the people who are walking by saying, who are you and why are you here? So sometimes that log record keeping doesn't happen like people would hope that we would do it. Roll calls, we always ask ourselves, is it better to do roll calls once an hour or half an hour, every half hour? For a point, we started experimenting, I think in the last time, it was an hourly roll call, because sometimes roll calls take what, 10, 15 minutes with everybody that's you're trying to call up. And then we did the situational awareness briefings on the half hour to do an hourly, you know, on the half hour situational awareness brief. And that way, that would allow other time and repeaters for everybody to sort of do a team huddle and listen to other traffic moving around. There was some simplex traffic moving. I know that anytime you're at a hospital, if the drill time allows, please figure out which other hospitals you can talk to simplex from where you're standing. And we know that varies from one exercise to another, because sometimes during one exercise, they put you on a loading dock on this side of the building, And that's wonderful. You've got great reach to that repeater on the mountaintop that you can almost see. That's good. But the next time they do the exercise, they say, oh, this time we want you over here closer to the emergency department. And it's like, oh, now everything just challenged, got changed, and it becomes a challenge to figure out who can I talk to simplex right now. We also have DMR setups from time to time for these exercises, and it's growing in use a little bit. I myself have not seen it used too much during hospital exercises. I know that we have used DMR, like from the Anderson Clinic in Carmel Valley, sometimes uses DMR because of the valley, narrow, long valley situation. To try to get out, there's a couple of DMR repeaters at either end to be able to use to get out. But then we have to make sure there's somebody at the other end of the DMR connection to relay that traffic. For future, we're hoping that when the situational awareness reports come out of the MOC, get them serialized because there's high interest from the hospital command centers and the incident commanders at the hospital. They really, really like this information because they don't know what's going on either in many cases. And through ham channels, we'll be able to say, oh, this is happening. And it'll help the incident commander make better decisions. During this combined hospital law enforcement exercise, there was a lot of confusion, which is maybe a good thing because it's a good training environment, about how many bad guys were there running loose around the entire county, and had law enforcement captured all of the bad guys or not. So hospital incident commanders were trying to decide, should I lock down the hospital? Should I remain in lockdown? Or is it okay for me to open up now and let traffic move freely about the hospital? And they didn't know if there were still bad guys running around. And so some people knew the information, but it wasn't getting out to everybody that needed it throughout the county. So anyway, so that's one example of how perhaps a serialized 213 with situational awareness information in it, which can be very, very brief, will push out from the MOC. There aren't that many people in the MOC. If you've ever been in the MOC, at least in the one that we've used up until now, it's a small room, and we've got a person doing WinLink, another person doing VHF comms, and a third person as sort of the liaison running in and out of the room over to the logistics people or onto the main floor, trying to push information around, find out what's going on, attend briefings. And so these there's not a lot of people down in the MOC helping out, and more people we send down there, as fewer people out in the field supporting the hospitals, actually boots on the ground, you might say. So it's always a tough call of whether it's better to send a person to the MOC or send the person to the hospital. So short-staffed MOC, they do the best they can down there. We're always pushing more HF in order to communicate with other counties too. And is that, let's see, if there's anything else there. Yep, that was it. I will stop share and ask if there's any questions or comments from anybody. Raise your hand. Oh, I see a hand from Dennis. Dennis. What you got, Dennis?
Good morning, Rob. Couple of things that have changed since the last drills that might be very useful to us. Specifically, we have a couple of new linked repeater systems in the county between K6RRR and the Cora folks. And that may be valuable resources, more than what we've seen in the past with a single repeater on Palomar, for example. And the other item is that folks that live out in Borrego Springs have been spooling up a group club out there, and it would be perhaps suitable to try to include them to make sure we have the entire county the next time around. I believe they have a small clinic out there, and that's it.
Excellent points. Thank you, Dennis. Other questions or comments from anybody? Raise your hand, or I see a waving hand from Heather. Go ahead, Heather.
Maybe I wasn't paying close enough attention, but some some of the, at least our hospital did, they had antennas on the roof. They had equipment in a room, but we didn't really know about the equipment until like the day before. And then the antennas on the roof were like really, really far away from where we were set up. So we weren't able to use that equipment. But in the past they had. So I don't, like, again, I must have not been paying attention, but knowing if the hospital has equipment, if you're going to be set up on a roof next to the antennas, or if you're going to be in a different location and not be able to use those. And so we just brought Matt, Kevin was with me, and we had mag mount antenna, and he brought a mobile. And then we found that our handy talkies, I had a couple and he had at least one, and they would receive different things and they weren't working equally as well. And so just having different radios was kind of interesting.
And that was at PMC Palmetto, correct?
No, we were actually over at UCSD Thornton. I think that's how you
Thornton,
say it.
okay.
Yeah, Thornton. So, and that was interesting. I had never been there before. And even though I had looked on a map, I couldn't find it very well. It was like driving around lost. So I would say, like, if you have a new location that you're trying to get to that you'd like try, the week before or a couple days before, so you know how to get there.
So you don't go to the wrong hospital by mistake. Go to Thornton instead of
I just, that whole
Scripps
thing,
or
my brain just was really messed up that morning. And that area, there's like a weird overpass and just some strange stuff. And I wasn't used to driving in that area. And then I also realized
campus. There's a lot of stuff going on there, and there's a lot of buildings, and the roads are crazy, and there's construction. It's a very tough campus.
there was construction. There was construction, and the parking, like I had to park in a parking structure. I think I ended up paying for parking. And I think that was one of my comments after the drill, was that if we're going to be paying for parking, maybe we should know, but also maybe as a courtesy, the hospital provides, a parking waiver or something for us, so we're not having to pay.
Yeah, they always promise they're going to pay for parking, but then when push comes to shove, it never works out. It seems that way.
Yeah, and we needed, because we were parking in the parking structure, Kevin needed to park in front, unload, and then go park his car. And I think carried whatever I had, which was like a couple handhelds and my MacBook. And I did WinLink. It worked out okay, but I think, Rob did say this, that it was hard to keep track of who's the contact person for the hospital. And, and that person, may not even know what kind of equipment they have there too. And they may not, I don't know. It was a really interesting experience. So,
and in the case of Thornton, you've got the one person who's overall umbrella in charge of that hospital system emergency management. And then they have assistants that work at each individual location. And it's like, who are you supposed to be talking to today? You don't really know.
And we were set up where the elevators stopped. And we didn't have, I think they promised us tables and chairs, and we didn't have it. I mean, I was sitting on the floor for a while until I think security brought us some chairs, but we still didn't have a table. But everybody that got off the elevator would walk up to us like they were checking in or something, and we would have to give directions. We're like, I don't know, maybe that way.
Okay, I see some hands up. Let me jump over to Heidi. Posted a question in chat talking about the physical security, and you got shooters running around. And what are you supposed to do when you're standing out there in the middle of the parking lot, an easy target? Is there any discussion with the hospitals about that issue, security, future scenarios? And we are, in my opinion, we're really at the mercy of the the hospital's physical security plan. Dave, would you agree on that?
Yeah, it's that's pretty much what we have right now, and I'm sure this will come up at one of the meetings here in the future when we meet with the disaster council and so on. Of what would be done? Where would they want to move you? Where would they put you to make sure that you're protected as well?
In case you don't know, Dave and Bruce and others go to council meetings of all kinds throughout the month in order to be our ARES liaison with these other groups and to keep us plugged into the county system. I see a couple of hands up, and let's go first to Mike in San Marcos.
Yeah, I saw Tim hand up first, but I'll go ahead. Yeah, if the comments by Dennis on that linked repeater system, it turns out to be a viable alternative. I suppose we should add that to the comm plan for the future. Yeah, also, yeah, if you got like, we use a trailer, we use a truck for some of our communications. It's hard for us to go inside if we're not in the parking lot at least at Palomar Medical Center, Escondido. That's all I had.
Right. Thanks, Mike. Hey, Tim, I see your hand up. How you doing?
Still got a ways to go yet, but probably be hopefully in back through. My issue has to do with actually the need to actually do a pre-planning session there at site, especially having to do with possible changes since maybe you were there the last time. Right now, the location I based with team leader last time, which was Edgemar DP SB skilled nursing facility in San Diego operated by the county. That they are in the process of putting in a new solar panel onto it. The problem is it actually will potentially blocks the line of sight to the digital repeater we're actually using for WinLink. So that has to be checked to see if that's the case or not. And even with that, where there's a situation where to get to the end of that point, have to have a 150-foot coax run. The only other possibility out of the valley that I know of is a Palomar full duplex digital repeater for WinLink. And if we have to shift to that, to get around a building, probably have to do a 250, maybe a 250-foot coax run. So it gets into being sure that don't assume that everything's going to be the same when you go back to the same location. You may have to have a different installation to accomplish what you need to accomplish.
Hey, Tim, thank you for that. Anybody else? I don't see any hands up right now. Noel in Mira Mesa is, we'll be talking to Noel offline to get Noel trained up on WinLink. Other questions or comments from anybody? I don't have everybody's picture on my screen, so if you're waving, I'm not.
Comment from Chris.
Waving. Oh, Chris, anyone CLC? Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I have a basically a small presentation or info available on WinLink at hamninja.com/WinLink for those of you that want to learn more. And I know we have some experts on here beyond my capabilities for sure, but that'd be a good start if you'd like to know what WinLink is and how it works.
Chris, thank you for that. Other questions, comments, anything on the exercise or future? I know we're all hopeful that November of this year, maybe we'll be back to normal-ish and maybe be able to do a fall exercise. The fall exercise usually happens like a week before Thanksgiving or something, if I remember correctly. Oh, Fred's got his hand up. Go ahead, Fred.
Yeah, the other thing too, for the people that are new to WinLink, we try to do the WinLink group, Munir and some other people, we try to do a tabletop exercise prior to the hospital drill. And that's very, very beneficial. It's basically Rob puts out like a checklist of do this, do this, do this, send this. And it's a great way to get ready for not only the hospital drill, but just using WinLink in general. Thanks, Rob.
Thanks, Red. Oh, somebody posted something in chat. Oh, there's a DM. Don saying the biggest problem at Sharp is when VHF versus HF, particular hardware configurations at different hospitals, using splitters and sharing antennas sometimes gets tricky between the ARES comm plan and the hardware transceivers in the hospital. And yeah, it's not everything works at all times. And I see that also in chat, Chris N1CLC just posted to everyone his hamninja.com/winlink URL there. Chris has a number of wonderful ham resources on SOTA and other ham topics on his hamninja.com website. Other questions, comments, raise your hand and we'll call on you. Okay. Any other? Oh, I see. Oh, Heather, giving me the finger there. Go ahead, Heather.
I just had a question. If we had, I don't remember if we had invited outside hams from other groups to participate in the hospital drill as well. Did we have
What we've done
CERT
in the past
members?
is if you have a friend that you can vouch for, that will behave themselves in a hospital setting, you're certainly welcome to bring that person anytime.
Only thing we have to be careful of is hospital security. That's why we have to make sure somebody vouches for them.
That's right. Very often we have to send the list of which ARES people are going to go to a location. We send that list in advance to the hospital so they can check you off to make sure that you're legit and not just showing up someplace saying you're from ARES and then demanding that things happen and be done your way, and then you'll be escorted off the property. We don't want that to happen. So that's why we sometimes send the names in advance.
Have we thought about integrating other groups and having them responsible for locations in their community that
Which
we
kind
would
of groups?
normally cover? Just, like CERT or just other ham groups that aren't ARES members, but could work local sites to their areas and somehow integrate them in through like a communication
That's actually
liaison
one
or
of the roles
something.
of the community ECs. We have what, about 15 ECs around the county, and one of the things in their job description is to liaise with all of the ham radio activities in their area of responsibility, clubs or CERTs or whatever, and just be that person in the community, the representative of ARES in their city. Oh, I see. Oh, Dan from San Joaquin Valley section. Dan, thank you for joining us. And I see your hand up.
Well, thank you very much. So first of all, I got to say everything I'm involved with ARES and volunteer activities is truly trivial scale-wise compared to what you guys are doing. But from my career in the Park Service, some things jump out at me, and that is if the hospitals do not have administrative policies that a specific ARES unit or group, 2 or 3 people, if you can't reach the first, call the second or the third, are informed of whenever anything changes with the comm infrastructure that the hospitals agreed to support in their hospital so they can make use of ARES. It's just sort of a systemic weak point, I think, because as you say, hospitals, more than anything else I've dealt with in ARES, change people and uses of spaces. And unless they're really, some hospitals, it's just a check mark and they're happy to participate if it's easy. Other hospitals, they really want to integrate you, and they actually set something up that's official and sacrosanct for the hospital and the administration and the maintenance people, and nobody else starts stacking stuff up where the amateur radio room is supposed to be. And with as many different hospital administrations as you have in as many different jurisdictions, nothing's going to be the same every place, but certain critical areas and points of failure could be addressed and buffed up, starting at the top. Just saying.
Dan, thank you for those comments. Yeah, so for everybody's information, one of the additional things that Bruce and Dave do a lot is working with the county and other jurisdictions in our area, working out badging, whether it's the disaster service worker DSW badges or other county badges or whatever, trying to get badging done, background checks done on ARES members that want to have those done. And then it's really a county to county issue also of maybe getting cross-jurisdictional recognition of things going. If you've listened to lessons learned briefings from like the Gulf Coast, some of their badges are good across county lines into other counties, which is a wonderful thing that we do not have around here. There's also issues of CERT and Red Cross and everybody else to do background checks. They can't share information with each other. And so what's good for one, you got to have another background check, or you just can't carry your badge over to a neighbor and be cleared for entry into a command post or anything like that. Dave, you want to add anything on that?
No, I think you pretty well covered it. And you're right, though, there are so many different hospital facilities and hospital groups that they all have their own policies and so.
Right, thank you. Hey, Joe, I see your hand up.
Yes, thank you. Are we issuing badges or applying for badges with personnel now, or is that on hold right now?
Not currently on hold, and I think everybody's badges have pretty much expired now. So maybe next year, when we get back to normalcy, we'll revisit this whole thing.
I know they're working on it. There have been some changes at the MOC. Our initial contact there has left. We have a new person in there. We're working with them. Right now, all the radio equipment from the MOC is sitting in my garage. So we're waiting for them to get to their new facility so we can make sure everything is programmed and ready to go to keep things in line. But even like I started to say before, even within a hospital group, Scripps or Sharp, each hospital has their own policy on what they have. And putting an antenna on a hospital facility is a major undertaking. So if it's going to be a permanent structure, it costs them thousands and thousands of dollars to do an engineering feasibility study to make sure that it's safe. So there are a lot of little things like that going on. That's why we try and keep with the groups, and Bruce and I try and meet with them on a regular basis to make sure that if there are any major changes, that we're at least have some idea what's going on.
Dave, thank you. Hey, Chris, I see your hand up.
Yeah, where is the new MOC going to be located? Can you say?
We don't know yet. They were supposed to have a meeting last week, but we have not heard where it is going to be. They're in a temporary facility right now in Kearney Mesa area, and just going to have to wait and see what the county decides.
All right, thanks.
And for people that don't know, the location of the MOC is always not public information. So some people that have deployed to MOCs know where it is, or we can talk vaguely about the old one was in Mission Valley in a radio hole. Yeah, we don't post on the website the specific address at the MOC. They don't want to be mobbed during emergencies by lots of people banging on their door. Other hands up, anybody? Questions or comments for this discussion about hospital drills, past or future?
All right,
Dave?
I'm
I'll
not
turn it-
seeing anything.
Nope. I'll turn it back to you, Dave. Thank you.
All right, again, next month, as Rob mentioned, we have ARES meeting is on the 12th, as well as a VHF contest. And we'll have a couple meetings in between now and then, probably one of them to give out some suggestions for contesting. Also on the 19th is Kids Day, and then field days. So going to be a busy June, that's for sure. And they are talking about a tabletop exercise sometime here soon. And if we get some information on that, we'll try and throw something together so we can participate in that as well. Other than
Dave, have
that,
you done their tabletops in the past?
part of them, yes. Yeah, and they're pretty extensive. It depends. Some are really good and some are okay. But they're all worthwhile. All worthwhile, that's for sure. So anybody else have any questions? I don't see any hands up or anybody waving. So again, thanks everybody for being here. And we'll have another meeting next Saturday. We'll do something. I'm not sure what yet, but Rob and I will get together and get something set up for next week. Thanks, everybody. Be safe. We'll see everybody soon.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well done. Thank you.